Hello all. I hope you're all able to hear me clearly. Very, very good afternoon to all of you. 𝗚𝗺𝗽𝗶 welcomes you all to the Stay Tuned webinar series. Hope you're all doing safe and sound. Our topic for today is impact of artificial intelligence during pandemic times, presented to you by Dr. Raul Rodriguez, Assistant Professor, AI, ML and Robotics at Washington University. Accompanying him today for the discussion is Dr. Samala Nagaraj, Assistant Professor, Marketing at Washington University. So let's learn together with these amazing speakers why artificial intelligence could be one of humanity's most useful inventions. Over to you, speakers. Dr. Raul, may I request you to please begin the session? I think the lovely audience is waiting for you to start the session.
All right. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on the impact of artificial intelligence during this pandemic, as well as in a post-COVID-19 world, which is going to look pretty different, of course, from what we used to know earlier. And I hope my audio and my video is clear to all of you, since I can see in the chat there are some problems with the audio. I hope there are no issues on that regard. All right, I should be clear now with my audio. All right, let's proceed with the webinar, and let's begin with this interesting topic, as well as very vital to all of you, of course, to every industry and every individual worldwide. We are not going to stick to any country in particular. We are going to keep it from an international perspective, and we are not going to keep it technical either. We are going to, of course, make it as simple as possible, considering there might be people who are not from a non-technical background. So let's stick to it. Let's give some real-life samples, and let's see how you as an individual can implement these particular tools at your workplace or at your home and your daily lives as well, and how will this impact you. All right, as you can see in the screen, you can see two particular items. One is a pyramid, and then you can see certain definitions. If you focus on the definitions first, we are going to break some stereotypes before we begin with any sort of application of artificial intelligence. First of all, artificial intelligence is a combination of various fields: mathematics, algebra, statistics, probability, physics, and as you know, analytics is the essence of it all. But what you don't know, or you might not have heard of very often, is that artificial intelligence is key in psychology. In fact, artificial intelligence exists because psychology has been giving birth to it for all these last 30 to 40 years. So during all these decades, people have believed that artificial intelligence is based on computer science, and they believe that it's based on mathematics. However, the origin is a psychological perspective. That's why we have something called intelligence, and that's why we have models of artificial intelligence called reinforcement learning. So considering this, if you look at the definitions on the right side, I have described for you certain terms that you might have come across on social media or on various academic-related journals or books that you might not be very clear about. If you look at data science is everything. Data science is the conglomeration of artificial intelligence, machine learning, what you know as deep learning, even robotics can be included, as well as analytics. Now, analytics and AI are not two poles apart. Analytics is the main base of it, and moving from analytics, we go directly into AI. Now, AI, as you know the term artificial intelligence, does not exist. There is nothing called AI, so to say. It's just a buzzword, it's just a marketing term. What is real is machine learning. Machine learning, as you might come across and you use on a daily basis in your smartphones, is the use of historical data, past data, in order to predict future outcomes of different sorts in various sectors. So without data, without historical data, without accuracy in that data, basically we have nothing. So the main essence of AI is not a Terminator sort of reality with robots, with AI-induced robots, or any sort of fascinating and magical applications. It's simply data. If you know how to handle analytics, you will be able to transfer it into machine learning applications with the right hardware tools. And it's all a procedure. As you can see on the pyramid, This is similar to the hierarchy of needs by Maslow, again, based on psychology and sociology. So as you move and progress ahead, you can see everything goes from data collection, proceeding farther into analytics, and then landing into a prescriptive optimization. What does this mean? It means that you are predicting something from the overall outcome of data. So again, from psychology, we moved forward into computer science, transferring various multidisciplinary areas such as mathematics, algebra, and so on. But bear in mind, without data, machine learning does not exist. So it's nothing that any one of you cannot do at home or in your workplace. Everybody can learn machine learning. You just need to put the right time, efforts, and consideration into it. Now, once this has been cleared out and we are all aware about what is and what is not artificial intelligence, we are going to move into various fields. We have covered, both of us, various areas of interest and areas that you are, of course, in touch with on a daily basis. And we will provide two particular aspects. One will be what is the area and how does artificial intelligence influence this particular industry or sector. And secondly, what companies or what company is acting upon this right now, how they are utilizing AI, and in what ways AI influencing the services or products, all right? So let's get started. Let's begin with the first sector. The first sector is finance. Now, you all have, of course, need money to survive, and you all utilize banking sector, and you are all influenced by the impact of finance, not just in the national economy, but also in the global spectrum. As you know, nowadays, the COVID-19 pandemic has hit real hard, not just India, but every other country in the world, and has created a huge demolition tool for the markets to crash, companies to lay off employees and reduce salaries, and various, country procedural aspects have come across as well. But how does AI influence finance and banking sector overall, prior, during, and post-COVID-19? Well, finance was already impacted by the influence of artificial intelligence in various areas. One is fraud prevention. So as you know, fraud cases, Ponzi schemes are the need of the hour here in the finance sector, and it's difficult to track them down. But artificial intelligence takes care of that end, again, based on data. On the other hand, we have investment and wealth management. This is a very critical area, as you can imagine, because, not just individuals as a sort, but various corporations and C-level executives need people to manage their wealth. In order to do this, a human eye might not be as accurate as an AI algorithm in order to be able to make predictions accurately. And when we move a bit a top notch ahead, we come into stock predictions. Here's where the investments comes in the picture. So as you know, the stock market is always fluctuating. How can we know what the value of a particular company or the value of a particular stock will be in the future? Maybe next week, next month, next year, or 5 years down the line. We can only know this by simply utilizing past data. Now, the more accurate the data we have, the more easier or the more accurate the outcome will be. Without that data being cleaned up, without any sort of disturbances, our outcome will be, not to say only contradictory, but might be erroneous as well. So we have to be very careful that the data that we collect in various fields, especially in finance, is accurate to the dot. Any company doing something in this field right now? Yes, many. For a start, we have Berkshire Hathaway by Warren Buffett, as many of you might know. He is utilizing AI algorithms to predict future values of the stocks that he owns, and of course ensures his wealth in the long run. Now, these predictions are not 100% accurate, obviously. We are setting a benchmark of 92 to 97.5% accuracy over the period of years. We are talking about a huge accuracy, because 97.5% is huge in terms of stock predictions. So we need to be aware that this is not easy at all to conduct, and it's not something that you or I as individuals can really do at home and expect the same accuracy range. We need adequate hardware and adequate software patterns in order to achieve that. Similarly, another company, JP Morgan, as you all know the company as well, is utilizing AI to monitor transactions, monitor contracts, and taking care of any sort of probable errors or any sort of fraudulent activities within the contractual aspects. JP Morgan really needs these services, because without this, they couldn't even perform adequately towards their clients. As you can imagine, if your company is based on auditory systems or risk management, and your area of expertise is lacking behind because AI is not helping you adequately, then obviously your whole infrastructure and your whole revenue, as well as your services, are going to get compromised. So finance is going to exactly be impacted by AI as it's been being impacted for the last 2 to 3 years. Now, these pandemic times have been a huge wake-up call for all the industries. Finance is no less, and each of you individually is no less either. Because what has happened is that in the past, people consider AI and machine learning as something meant to be used by techies, by people with any sort of technical or computer science background. However, now we have come across the reality that we all need to use this. It's important for everybody, and it's required for all of us. And it's been a wake-up call to develop these tools further and make it a part of our daily routines in a big way, which it was not till now. It was progressively evolving, but this has been a radical evolution from 0 to 100 right now. All right. Now, moving from finance a little, so something that also affects all of us because we are all bound by rules and regulations of various sorts. We have the legal sector. Now, the legal sector is impacted in a way that might worry many people because when you utilize AI, you can replace lawyers, you can replace judges, and you can even create new laws in base of AI algorithms. Now, how does this all work? For one, we have something called virtual legal researchers or virtual legal assistants. Now, as you know, when we have to conduct any sort of lawsuit, or a lawyer has to do set a particular task, needs to do research. What past cases have been there? What is the existing scenario? What are the laws in place, and how to tackle them accordingly? In order to do this, there is a lot of time investment. It's a huge monetary as well as time and energy investment. So to save to save the lawyers and the judges from that effort, implementing AI can help us, first of all, getting patterns in the research. So that pattern identification is critical. Now, AI can help that looking across all the laws across the years in various segments and nations and getting common identificational areas where we can find loopholes and utilize it in our defense. That's for one. Secondly, there's been cases of AI-based or AI-induced judges. Now, people think that AI might be bias-free because AI does not have emotions and AI does not utilize cognitive abilities or cognitive systems. Well, you're wrong here. AI, it's true that doesn't utilize emotions yet, does not have any cognitive abilities yet, but AI is not bias-free. Why is AI not bias-free? Because the coder or the programmer who actually programmed that particular AI algorithm was already biased. It's a human being, and we have all been exposed to certain upbringing, certain culture, certain language, and we all come from different backgrounds. Considering this, the algorithm that you program will be automatically biased. Now, how to reduce that bias? There are various ways. One of them, enabling a team of different people who can program the algorithm, who come from different backgrounds, talking about the legal sector, and who come from different countries and different legal systems. With this, we can also enable, not reduce completely, but enable a small reduction of approximately 25 to 30% in AI bias. That dream that AI will be 100% bias-free is just dreaming away. It's technically not possible at the moment because even if we create an algorithm where AI can actually create more AI algorithms, it will really be challenging because at some point in time, that initial AI algorithm was created by somebody else. So that is the challenge of bias, the challenge of the legal system, and how to proceed further. So there are many cases here. You can find several of them. We have, for example, Deloitte. So Deloitte is a company, an MNC. As you know, all of you, they work on various areas. One of them is taxation. One of them is risk advisory and consulting projects. So they have developed a tool, and they're utilizing currently a tool called Tax One or Tax I. Now, what does this AI-induced tool do? This AI-induced tool, I give you an example from a European perspective, where it is anyways where I come from. In the EU, there are n number of cases happening, legal cases happening on a daily basis. Now, this particular tool has dealt right now with more than 1,153 legal cases accurately, neatly, and smoothly. How does the tool do it? Again, past data. Research, research, and more research. Collecting data, finding patterns, finding accuracy. And when that accuracy is found, we land into the ideal solution for that case. And again, this particular tool, Tax1 or Tax-I, has run more than 1,000 cases so far. So if we implement it in countries like India or China, where there are, of course, a larger number of cases, you can imagine exactly what we can achieve with that and what is the aim of it at the end of it all. So bear this in mind, be prepared for the future of the legal sector because it's coming, it's already there, but it's coming in a much bigger manner right now, especially in post-COVID-19 times. All right, another sector that you know of and you are exposed, and sadly, we have all been exposed to it at the moment and stopped from enjoying it right now, which is the sports industry or, well, the sports sector. Now, in my case, for example, I am a football and a basketball follower. As you know, due to COVID-19, all the sports tournaments have been basically paralyzed and stopped until further notice. If you look at any of the sports, tennis, cricket, or badminton, any other, they have all been paralyzed. This is very difficult, not just for us as an audience to enjoy it, but also for the industry. The industry runs on of course, audience, and you need tickets for that, and you need merchandising and marketing and branding, etc. So all this is critical. Without that, as you can imagine, the COVID-19 has really hit the industry big time. In fact, many players have taken their salaries down, cut-offs, even layoffs for that matter. Now, what is happening here? How can AI really help this industry embrace for another pandemic if at all it happens, or another COVID-19 or COVID-20 if at all it comes again in this winter, this year? Well, there are various tools, but let's take one example. As I don't know how familiar you might be with the NBA, the National Basketball Association in the US. There is a basketball team called the Sacramento Kings. This particular team, which is owned by an Indian American, is utilizing AI in various ways. First of all, they're using wearable devices to monitor the players' health, not just the heart ratio, but also the likeliness to be contracting COVID-19 or any other sort of disease or virus or bacterial infection. At the same time, they're also using chatbots for various areas. These chatbots help the players be engaged on 24/7 basis with a medical doctor or with a lawyer if needed, or even with their coaches. Now, the coach is not 24/7 on the chatbot, of course, but these chatbots have been enabled with more than 500 to 700 questions to answer common doubts or common queries that the players might have. This goes from physical related queries to any other kind of social or psychometric query that they might pop up with. Similarly, and lastly, we have tracking sensors. Now, as you know, many sport events, especially in Europe and America, have restarted. But they have restarted with our audience. So with our audience, we have, even if we allow audience to come in the picture, we often show something that you know very well called social distancing. Now, this social distancing of keeping 1 to 2, even 3 meters between person to person, it's difficult to ensure in a football stadium or in a basketball stadium, for example, where the crowd is massive. How do we ensure this? How do we do people counting, crowd counting, and crowd separation, or even when they are wearing a mask? We can only use AI tools for that. So we enable these particular AI tools in the stadium or in whatever sports related stadia we are performing the tournament, and we enable it to count people for one, secondly to understand who is breaking the rules, who are not breaking the rules, who are respecting them, and accordingly we, of course, issue sanctions, or we don't allow people to come for the next match, and we take certain calls in relation to that data. But as you can see, everything is based on data. Data is critical here. AI can be used in other applications within sports, which I don't really want to get much in depth into it because it's more related to bets and money-oriented areas. But I will just briefly mention it before I proceed further. We have something called bets, as you know, in sports, where money is in the picture as usual. So people bet, players also bet, whether who's going to win, who will score, who will lose, etc. Now, AI can make predictions accordingly. How? AI can predict, for example, many of you, if not all, might know who Cristiano Ronaldo is, the football player. who plays in Juventus now, former Real Madrid player. Now, this player has been analyzed by AI algorithms to know what leg, right or left, he uses to kick the ball, how often does he kick the ball with each leg, in what direction does the ball go when he kicks, how many times does he run on the left or the right side of the stadium, how fast does he run, etc. All these parameters which will escape from our human eye, they will come in the AI vision. So these particular parameters, we will use them in order to understand whether the team will win or will lose in base of what each player will do on a particular point in time. Of course, this helps us getting a huge revenue in the long run, and of course, performing our bets in a more accurate manner. So data, again, it's key, all right? Extremely important here. Now, let's move to a very critical sector which you must be tired of listening to because we are all under lockdown thanks to this. That is the healthcare sector. Now, in the healthcare sector, you can imagine very well what sort of example I'm going to give you right now. Yes, COVID-19. We are going to talk about COVID-19, of course. What else could we speak about? But not only COVID-19, I will also cover other areas. Okay, let's jump a bit into how healthcare gets impacted by AI. Here there are two particular areas. One is going to be prevention and one is going to be prediction. In these particular areas, we are going to work upon, of course, preventing when something is going to come based on the particular patterns or outbreaks that are present. And secondly, predicting accurate diagnosis more accurately than doctors can do. Now, this is tricky because here we need really accurate data because we're dealing with people's lives. If we talk about COVID-19, there is a company, a Mumbai-based company called 𝗬𝗚𝗃. Now, this particular company is utilizing X-rays from COVID-19 patients who are positive in order to predict patterns, whether they are recovering from the virus or not. How do they do it? So you take the X-rays, you have the X-rays in front of you. Of course, you have to digitalize it in JPEG format or IMG, any sort of format that can fit the algorithm. Normally, it's a CSV file or JPEG. You have this particular format, you enter it into the particular algorithm that you have created, and what it does, it finds patterns. You have to label that particular X-ray, telling the system whether it's positive or negative COVID-19 patient. It will find patterns accordingly, and once the patterns have been found, it will predict whether further X-rays or future X-rays are positive or negative quicker. So, for example, I train my algorithm to predict positive cases only. And once a patient comes to me, I take an X-ray from the chest, I get to see it, I run it through the algorithm, and immediately I will get a response, whether it's positive or negative, based on previous data. Similarly, if a patient is positive, I also have different stages of positiveness. So this will help me see whether the patient is recovering or is just getting worse and worse. Now, I'm going to explain you something very quickly, which is more of a personal case. This is going to be something more personal because it's personal. That's the main reason why I also started researching upon AI in the healthcare industry. So in my family, particularly my uncle, has a case of brain cancer, which is still happening. And earlier it was pretty dangerous and, well, much more aggravated than it is now. It slowly has been recovering progressively, but this called my attention to understand how exactly artificial intelligence as a tool can help predicting brain cancer or even modulating brain cancer and understanding whether the person is recovering or not. So I've worked upon some certain research papers on breast as well as brain cancer. And what the patterns I found is that when you have these X-rays, just like with COVID-19, that won't be enough for certain types of cancer because there are, metastases of it. So you need to make sure that you understand what kind of glaucoma is present, what kind of cancerous cell is there, what are the medical and pathological influences of it, and how it processes further, how it evolves, where does it tend to expand. So normally brain cancer tends to expand to the lungs, tends to expand to the throat, and then moves into the liver, the bladder, and so on. So understanding these patterns for me was critical because it was not just academic or any sort of research-based proposal which I was interested on by personal affiliation, but because of family affiliation. And because it touched me directly, I put even more efforts to understand it. So healthcare is a critical area where artificial intelligence can really develop a huge role. And let me tell you, if we really as a society want to avoid a next COVID-19 or whatever other disease we can come across, artificial intelligence is going to play a hugely important role from today itself, from now, from this very moment. Earlier, we were caught off guard. We didn't know it was going to happen. We didn't know how to react to it. But now we are prepared. We know the consequences. We know what lockdown can create in our society. So it's big time for all of us to really embrace it. And there is no choice whatsoever about this. Similarly, another crisis that we are living right now in another industry is agriculture. Now, agriculture is hugely impacted by AI, as you know, using drones, robotics, using analytics to predict various crops as well as pests. In India right now, there is a pest happening, which is the locust. The locust is really harming Indian agriculture at this point of time in various areas of the country. Is going to harm the industry in a time where COVID-19 has popped in the picture, as well as climate changes such as cyclones and monsoon is coming as well. So all of this coming together is, of course, going to drown the economy in debt. Now, how can AI help somewhat here? First of all, AI can be used somewhere or the other in resource utilization. How to utilize pesticides, how to utilize machinery, how to utilize drones adequately in the right places at the right time in the right localities. This is very critical here. It is normally used with drones. It's normally used with IoT, Internet of Things, in order to understand the crops that we have, how expanded it is, whether we have pests, and when is the right time to collect the crops and sell them, as well as the market predictions in terms of prices, which is also very critical to agriculture, as you can imagine. And of course, detection of pests can be critical. If at all we'll have run AI algorithms in India maybe a month ago, we could somewhere or the other have found patterns that locust was coming from countries like Pakistan and understand what particular trajectory or route or path this particular pest is going to follow. Accordingly, we could have acted upon that. But as these particular tools are not so implemented in certain areas of the world, we are lagging behind on that particular spectrum. So we need to really embrace it in agriculture, because at the end of the day, you need to understand that agriculture is the reason that we are all able to live. Without agriculture, we cannot eat. We cannot have food to eat on our plates. So we need to realize that is critical to our existence as much as healthcare. Another sector that you are impacted by, and again, due to COVID-19, this sector has been hugely harmed, because I don't know about you, but I used to order from Amazon pretty often. And thanks to this, Amazon was just stopped all of a sudden for almost 2 months, especially in India. So we need to understand that the supply chain is critical with AI. Without AI in the supply chain, we can basically do nothing nowadays, because we have a globalized world. So that is very important to understand. So here we have two parts where AI plays a vital role. One is delivery of items, which will be AI-induced drones, and the other hand is monitoring the end-to-end process. All right, monitoring end-to-end process is critical. Now, let's take Amazon as an example. Amazon, as you know, is a huge MNC based upon supply chain and based upon delivery of goods. How does this company operate here? Amazon operates with AI on delivery basis, monitoring, of course, the packages. In various European nations as well as US, they utilize drones for delivery. So those drones are enabled with AI, with Google Maps and geolocation and GPS in order to transport those items. Similarly, they monitor the end-to-end process. When the item has been collected from the particular station, when it has been packed, when it has been put in the drone, and when it has been transported. All this, of course, and when it has been delivered. And all this is being monitored by AI. There is no need to keep a human being who can make errors in between. AI can directly monitor it with data, without any margin of error, and of course via satellite and IoT-enabled devices. So all of this will help us in the coming future, because if at all any sort of other pandemic or related lockdown, healthcare or otherwise, might come across, at least we have a solution that if we need to deliver items, we have a very huge, powerful tool we can help us in the future. All right, let's move on to a sector which is very close to me and my colleague, which is, of course, the education sector. Here we have, obviously, a huge impact as well. When we talk about education sector, we're going to move across various fields. One of them is monitoring. Monitoring of students. Here we'll monitor how often students attend classes, how often students pay attention in the class, how often students actually perform the exams correctly without the need of a human being. How do we do this? Well, first of all, you have to enable CCTV cameras, which are AI-induced in the classroom. There are various universities in the world doing this. For one, you have Georgia Tech in the United States, which is again using these particular devices to monitor student attrition and how often students pay attention in the class. How do you monitor that? Well, by one, you can monitor eye tracking. So if the student is not looking at the professor when the professor is explaining, you can understand that somewhere or the other, the student is not really paying attention 100%. Of course, there's a margin of error here. Hence, we also enable voice. Now, to enable voice, we can track whether the students are speaking among themselves, what are the same, whether they are monitoring the class or not. So all this, despite of any sort of privacy issues that might be in place, can of course represent a huge, powerful tool for academia to grow further and develop its services very accurately and in a large manner. On the other hand, of course, we have program structuring. I don't know if many of you are aware how an academic program or academic degree, be it an MBA or a BTech program, is structured, but it takes hours and hours of effort to put into designing subjects, designing course outlines, designing classroom distribution, student allotment, faculty allotment. There are many parameters to be considered. So how can AI help in this particular area? Well, you can take various universities in the UK and the US who are utilizing it. And how does it perform is you enter the data of the number of classes you have, the student ratio you have, what is the student's background, meaning where are they coming from, what languages do they speak, what subjects are they opting for, what faculties do you have, what subjects do these faculties teach. Accordingly, the AI algorithm will distribute them evenly among the different options that you have in terms of classes and subjects, and set the right timetable, the right distribution, which is performing in a profitable manner for the institution. So this is critical for the overall performance of an academic institute. You have various other examples. Also, it's coming to my mind now, Georgia Tech again. They are utilizing, for a subject on artificial intelligence, they're utilizing a chatbot. Now this chatbot, because we as professors don't have the whole time in the world to answer student queries, as you can imagine. When you have 1,000+ students and they're all asking similar queries over the course of years, that are because the students keep enrolling every year, so the same queries keep popping. So you collect questions, you collect answers, and then accordingly you enter these answers into an AI algorithm system. Now, this particular chatbot is going to answer the questions of the students that have been, of course, asked earlier on 24/7 basis. So the student feels, for one, there is a constant engagement with the student. The institution is always engaged with the student permanently. The student can solve his or her issues immediately without the need to wait for the professor to be free, because the chatbot is anyways free. So this data collection, this question collection, can really represent a big benchmark if we install this in huge universities in countries which are overpopulated and there's a large number of students. This can reduce, of course, professorship workload. This can reduce student as well as professorship stress, and the stress will be reduced as well as the performance will be increased by both the parties, because we will both be satisfied with the system and satisfied with the services. So this is critical. I really hope that several, if not all, educational institutions around the world, though there are many who are already utilizing it, but even more, will be able to enable these services big time in all the programs across all the distributions. If you do this, academia can be really taken into a next step of accuracy and customer delight and customer satisfaction. Another service we have is the one we all are affected by, which is public sector, governments. Now we are all under some government or the other. be it the government that gave you the passport or the government that you live under in the country of the host country that you are in. Now, when we have this particular public sector, here things get a bit trickier. As we already cover the legal sector, I'm not going to get much into the finance and legal aspects of it because it's pretty similar and you just have to apply it to the government industry. So here we're going to work more upon auditory systems and as well as law enforcement. So when we do audits, basically checking quality of government services as well as citizens' services, we have a tool developed again by Deloitte, the company that you all know, the MNC. It's called GRAPPA, G-R-A-P-A. This particular tool is helping the company as well as government agencies to create audit systems which are accurate to the point, to the dot, because utilizing past data, again, previous government data, others government data, which is publicly available, in order to do risk assessment and in order to do audit assessment accurately. If you take a human being to do audit assessments, it can be inaccurate, it can be biased. But however, if you take an AI algorithm, it can be pretty accurate in the overall performance. Now, the accuracy again is compromised if the AI algorithm is biased or up to a percentage of 35%. However, utilizing this past data and doing the audit and risk assessment system, we can somehow reduce government frauds, different schemes which might not fit the citizens accordingly, or even certain laws which should not be implemented at that point of time. Of course, we can also ensure that politicians are really legit and use their logic to apply reasoning into the different actions they take for the betterment of the government. So this is a particular tool that will be enabled in the government. Now, if you ask me, what tool exactly can a government use for this? Well, not talking about Deloitte as a company, but you might all have heard about IBM Watson. IBM Watson is an AI-induced device created by the company IBM, which is mainly used for chatbots, but it can also be used for risk assessment. So IBM Watson, you can also use it in your laptop just to try it out and see how it performs. But if we install this in a larger scale, we can develop a real advanced system of e-governance. And now e-governance is really critical to the overall performance of the government, and is a critical tool for us as citizens to judge how the government is doing, to evaluate the government and see how they are performing in the long run and whether they are doing things for the betterment of society or for the betterment of their pockets. So this is critical to the betterment of the whole world by itself. All right. Then we have law enforcement, which I will briefly mention. Just 1 minute. When we have law enforcement, of course, we're talking about police and police services. Here we can utilize AI for crime prediction. And how do we use crime prediction? Again, here we use facial analysis, voice analysis, various non-verbal communication aspects, as well as past data and past criminal records of different individuals. How do we use this? We cannot predict 100% who will commit a crime or not, but we can at least estimate what kind of profiles will be likely to commit a crime, how often, in what perspective, what types of crime, and this will help, of course, law enforcement agencies to do their job better and more accurately. This is already in testing phase in various European nations, namely Spain, France, Germany, as well as the US in various departments. There has been proven bias in this system because the system detects people of darker skin color to be criminals, but of course we all know that that's not accurate, and that bias is being worked upon right now, so it will take some more research to come across. And lastly, from my end, it will be the human resources perspective. Now, when we talk about HR is critical here, and this is a field which I have personal research upon very extensively for, particularly during my PhD. And in this area, we can do various aspects. For one, we can do talent acquisition. We can predict what are the right employees for a company. Then we can also monitor how often or how likely the employees are likely to leave the company. So we can predict employee attrition, and in a very accurate manner. If we establish a full-fledged AI-induced system in the company, compromising on privacy, we can enable the system to predict how often how often an employee will leave the company in base of their actions, how often they get up from the desk, with whom do they interact on an often basis, what do they say about the company by mail. So here we will apply something called sentiment analysis, which is an analysis of the emotional as well as the opinion responses from our employees. And then we have other aspects, which can be predicting what employees deserve to get benefits, for example, appraisals, a promotion, extra salary, extra vacations, and what employees deserve to be laid off or fired in whichever manner it might be. So we need to understand this particular area very critically. I'm not going to extend much upon this field because we can really take a 3-hour session with this easily just to explain this. What I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a particular slide, which is a tool. I hope you can see it, it's the video. So it's a tool which is used in facial recognition and emotion recognition. This can be used in HR systems and in HR services in order to predict, first of all, during an interview, how a candidate, a tentative employee, is feeling about a question, whether what their answer is accurate or not, and also existing employees, whether they are being truthful about their services, about their opinions, or about any sort of answer they are providing to our questions. All right. So these tools are really innovative, extremely useful in the long run, and I strongly believe, and I can back it with research and data, that this will make a difference during and post-COVID-19 in our society and globally. So now I will hand it over to Dr. Samala Nagaraj, and he will continue with the remaining sectors. Thank you so much.
Yes, okay. Okay, that's great. That's great. That's a very informative session by Dr. Raul. He has touched upon various areas, various aspects of business. The topic today is more often about the impact of AI in the pandemic situations, the situation right now, and post the COVID sessions, how it's going to be. I've been seeing a lot of questions on that, how is it related to pandemic situations, and etc. What we were trying to do for the last 40 minutes is just trying to touch upon all the areas of the business where it can help, it can impact. The session that the two areas which I have been researching upon for a long period of time is the retail sector. So I'll be talking to you about that. The retail sector, as you know, has got too much of implications, too much of application of AI and ML already at large. The kind of personalization, the kind of customization that happened for almost a decade now, the tech giants like Amazon, etc. There's a lot of algorithm machine learning systems I've been using continuously, which is being used for the improvement and the very great experience of the customers. It's all about improving the customer experience. There's no doubt this is being used for a longer period of time now, but the level of the techniques and the machine learning techniques that are being used is getting to a higher level now. For example, talking about the Amazon Go that has been launched in Seattle very recently, has a very surprising and very interesting kind of technology that is used to read the kind of consumer behavior and give them seamless shopping facilities and shopping experience using the new AI technologies, cameras, sensors, machine learning, and etc. Hopefully, we all know about this, but this is going to a different level now. We are in level 2, 3, and some of the tech giants are in level 5 using these AI technologies. Okay, so some of the companies which are highly using these technologies, like Alibaba, which has recently launched 𝗽𝗺𝗃𝗃, which uses facial recognition payment system. So you do not have to carry cash, neither you have to exchange. Okay, thank you. So we have this share of shelf and distribution area in retail where the AI has to be largely implemented. Like what kind of products are occupying the shelf in the retail, how much of space it is being occupied, how much time it is being occupied. You also want to compare your product's shelf space with the competitor's shelf space, so that you want to optimize the kind of products that you use in your shelf space. That is where the tech giants are using computer vision and artificial intelligence to track and monitor what kind of products are being used in the shelf space, how much they are taking time. This is also used in terms of when you're trying to introduce a new product into a retail. You want to face your new product and you want to see what kind of consumer pickup choices happen. How does it attract?
Okay, great.
All right.
Raul, we
Yeah.
have this.
Yes. Let's proceed with the Q&A. No issues.
Great. So, all of humankind at some point of time is afraid of the fact that, if AI takes over, we might all just turn out of jobs suddenly. Is that true? Or do you have any certain views on it that can ease our heads off of this thought?
Well, AI will take jobs away. Yes, that's of course going to happen. But just like in any industrial revolution, is nothing to be scared of in that manner. But AI is not here to take our jobs or create any sort of destruction reality. What is going to happen is that AI is an enabler. So it's going to enable us to upskill ourselves and develop our skills further and create new opportunities for ourselves as well as for the industry. So if the question is going to be whether I am going to be jobless, like as an individual, most probably not, because it will take around 10 to 15 years for this particular extended revolution to take place. So in that point of time, during that period, you need to enable yourself and upskill yourself. That is your only call. You have to decide whether you want to adapt or perish. That you have to take a call, but you have to take a call right now. So that is the most accurate answer to that question.
So based on that question, I have a follow-up question. Usually when you hear such things, you come to ask yourself, is artificial intelligence really intelligent? Or is it that machine learning has been developed as an intelligent machine, but it's still not intelligent enough to, survive what humans are doing these days?
If we talk about intelligence, we have to understand first human intelligence. We might believe that we as humans are very intelligent, but I'm sorry to say that we are not that much. So we need to understand that first. And secondly, we need to comprehend that machine learning is the same as artificial intelligence. Like they're both one and the same. It's just a branding term that we are using AI for marketing purposes or promotion purposes. Other than that, it's machine learning by itself. There are various types, but it still is not intelligent, as you can say. It doesn't have cognitive abilities as we do. So that is lacking. That is the work is lacking behind.
Great, sir. So, considering we have a lot of educators in our attendees today, I will redirect this question to you or Dr. Shamla, whoever will be able to take this question. So, the question is that what is the advantage of artificial intelligence over traditional methods of classroom teaching? And is there any limitation of it? Is it ever going to be as good as classroom teaching is?
So I believe Dr. Samala is having some connectivity problems, if I'm not wrong. So I will proceed with this particular question. Yeah. There is going to be a difference, of course, from classroom teaching because there is not going to be physical contact at first. But if we look at having physical contact and having AI tools enabled in the physical context, we will understand that AI is going to help us make solutions, take solutions in a smart way, take calls more accurately because we will understand when a student is at the verge or at the limit of dropping from the class or dropping from the subject or even dropping from the degree itself. So this will help us reduce student attrition and, of course, create a student engagement, which is what is critical in education sector. It's difficult to engage a student for 90 minutes in a classroom, but if we have an AI algorithm to ensure us that these are the problems created and this is how we can tackle them, then, of course, nothing better than that.
Okay.
Okay.
So do you see any inputs on construction sector? How is AI going to be helpful in the construction sector?
In the construction sector. So you're talking about building development and well, infrastructure development overall. Okay. See, here we of course have more perspective which is focused upon AI-induced robotics. So we can have that. Of course, we can have use of drones, the use of humanoids, the use of exoskeletons in order to develop and construct not just any sort of infrastructure, maybe buildings, bridges, whatever that might be, way faster. But on the other hand, we also have the predictive tools. So we can use AI to predict how long it will take us to construct a particular infrastructure based on data we have, number of employees, budgeting, maybe weather conditions, maybe government approvals, financial difficulties, any sort. So all of this together will come into the algorithm and it will help us make predictions accordingly.
So does that mean that in any sector, it can help us in reducing the calculations, the data science that we have to apply to do, and we have to do it manually? When we do it with AI, it is going to be much easier. If I am getting you right?
Yes and no. Yes, you have to of course use data, but that doesn't mean you have to do it manually.
Yeah.
What it means is that you have to understand the sector. That every sector is independent from each other, so you have to have experts understand AI as well as understand the sector that you are working on.
Right. Okay, so one more thing. This is a very interesting one. Is artificial intelligence impacting virtual buying behavior? Like, when we use Alexa or we use Google Home or things like this, is artificial intelligence actually impacting what we buy?
Well, here we are all using smartphones, so we all know how these particular tools work. We are familiar with it. But if we enable these tools to learn from us, there is something in AI called reinforcement learning, which is a psychology-based concept. As I said at the very beginning of the webinar, AI has been born because of psychology. So this particular term, what it means is that we learn by trial and error. We learn by reward and punishment. Similarly, this tool learns by reward and punishment. In this case, punishment will be correction. So it learns from us in base of the answers we give, and it predicts future questions accordingly, and it keeps collecting data in that way. So at some point, if the question could be whether this tool will be more intelligent than us, quite likely, because we are at a certain race that we like to make things which are smarter than us, and then we fear that it will destroy us. So we have to work upon these ethical concepts. But yes, if we train it, of course it will be smarter than us. That is not very difficult. It's not far away. If that will be my answer.
Okay, so one of these questions in the mindset itself when people ask this question, but one of the key questions is, how do these systems respect privacy? Although we want our systems to be smart enough to know what we want, and then people also fear that they are peeking into our privacy and taking away our freedom and abusing our freedom maybe. So what are your comments on that?
Well, freedom is as innate to humans as breathing. So we always seek for freedom, though we are still not free if you look at it.
Right.
So it's not like we're going to lose much on that end. We're talking about, I think, rather than freedom, I think we are targeting privacy, which is the big buzzword that has come out in the last years because of Facebook. So freedom goes hand by hand with privacy. So the question could be whether privacy is going to be compromised and freedom along the way. Yes, somehow, but anyways, I think we've been monitored right now. I mean, there are CCTV cameras everywhere. In India, you have something called Aadhaar card, which is monitoring your fingerprints, your bank details, your trips. You have a passport. You have your biometrics everywhere in your company as well as your data. So your freedom has been given away long ago. So it's not something that you're compromising any longer. It's just something that you're going to give to somebody else now. In this case, an AI tool. You will compromise on privacy. That I can agree to. Other than that, freedom, it won't really be compromised because it has already been compromised long back.
Great. So before I let you go, for a budding engineer or for student who's looking forward to a job or a work in the sector of AI and machine learning, what are your basic tips? Where can they start learning, and what kind of books would you recommend if you have some input on that?
Well, see, there is a huge extended database for learning AI and learning how to program and so on. My advice will be to first develop a basic knowledge of understanding theoretical psychology, because that's the key. Then you move into mathematics and algebra slightly. And then you progress into, along the way, of course, with computer science, a bit of Python programming here and there, and other languages which are also trending. Now, I normally post, but personally, I normally put on my LinkedIn certain content in relation to this, because many questions of this sort has popped earlier. So there are many online courses on various platforms, but excluding that, those MOCs, books should be focused upon psychology, maths, and computer science mainly. There are several books, ideally Python programming language, Java, C++, and Julia should be the key at the moment. And then, of course, learn how to apply to each industry independently of where you work.
Great, sir. So I think we are at about time. Do you have any closing remarks for our attendees who've been participating with you and asking you these great questions?
Yes, any questions you might have, you can always mail them to me. I can mail you back the answers, and we can all share it with the attendees. Not a problem at all. I don't have any questions any further right now.
Great. Great, sir. Great. Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. Thank you, Dr. Samala. This was a great discussion. I think people also thoroughly enjoyed it, and we also thoroughly enjoyed it. We learned a lot from you both. Just an important announcement: the certificates, the recording, and the session PPT will be made available to you very soon. It will be available on your email IDs. It will be sent to you on your registered email IDs. Please be rest assured, we will be in touch with you. Any questions, please get in touch with us at support.education.com. Have a good day. Please stay safe. Thank you.